another really, really exciting matchup that we've got on Saturday night. Number 16, Texas A&M against number 8, Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a 6.5-point favorite. The over-under I have is 10 Jeremiah Love carries. That's it.
Where's your grade, son? This is one of the running backs that's gone missing this year.
Only played one game in his defense.
Yeah.
Played one game in which maybe his coaching staff kind of forgot that he was on the team and not a preseason All-American.
He didn't go to Mass that week. They had to sit him out.
Maybe. I don't know. It's Notre Dame. Never rule it out.
Mm-hmm.
He's never had more than 15 carries in a game. So, like, this notion that he was going to get 25 carries a game, like, they weren't necessarily going to do that. This guy was not going to get the Dylan Sampson treatment of last year. But I do think extra rest after the Miami game, coming off of just a bizarre usage night that he had, I think that in another meaningful game, I think we see a change in philosophy with Mike Denbrock, the former LSU OC and current Notre Dame OC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am not nearly as convinced as the masses are that 10-2 Notre Dame is a lock for the playoff. I'm not. After A&M, nobody left on that schedule is currently in the AP Top 25. Now, we can sit here and poke a whole lot of holes in the AP Top 25 based on the way that things have gone with that voting this week.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that's still significant. And you're not looking at that Notre Dame schedule, the remaining schedule, and going, wow, there's a bunch of playoff caliber teams, a handful of quality win opportunities to really boost their resume. It kind of looks like a whole lot of 6 and 7 or like 6 and 7 win teams that are left. Maybe that'll be different, but right now, I don't really know that they're getting all these big marquee opportunities like what they have on Saturday night. This game's huge for the Irish, man. It is really huge for the playoff picture as a whole. I said it before they played in the opener last year, these two teams. I know a lot of fan bases, if they just turn on an SEC game, they're anti-SEC and they're just rooting against that team, whatever, because they don't want the SEC to flex and do all the bravado and all that. I get it. But for Notre Dame's status as an at-large team, because remember, they can't play in a conference championship. They can only be an at-large team. Everybody should be rooting against Notre Dame. Everybody should be rooting against Notre Dame. It should be, oh my God, Notre Dame's 0-2. That opens up a spot essentially in the playoff. It very
that
well
just lets
could.
you know like that the haterade has gotten totally out of control. People are just like rooting for the evil empire of Notre Dame against the SEC. It's like, guys, they have their own television contract. They literally could set their schedule however they want, and they're choosing to be here.
Yeah, I don't know that the SEC is the bid stealer in the same way that Notre Dame could be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the SEC is going to get their 4 teams, and they're all going to kind of sort it out in conference play, anywhere between 3 and 5 teams from the SEC, and like that'll sort itself out later. But I just think that this is a huge game for playoff implications, and obviously for A&M as well, who would like to be able to stay in that conversation later in the season like they did last year. If Notre Dame lost A&M last year, they're not in the playoff. Now, you could say if they lose to A&M in the opener, they probably have a different response against Northern Illinois, and maybe they don't lose that game as well. So I get it from that standpoint. But I'm just saying, if Notre Dame is 10-2 with a loss to Northern Illinois on the resume, they're not in the playoff. Like we saw power conference teams at 10-2 get left out of the playoff. Miami, BYU last year.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind. Will, I think this game means so much for Notre Dame, and it's going to show. I think it'll really show. A&M is 3-12 in true road games the last 4 seasons, only one of which was with Elko as the head coach. Okay, so wait a minute. Yeah, like that. I was doing that stat in my mind, and then I went to 2021 because obviously he was still the defensive coordinator there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's maybe a little bit different. But all 3 of those wins technically were with him on the sidelines. So 2021. They won at Mizzou, and then they won 2 of those games last year. So, again, it's not as bad of a stat as maybe it could be for Elko. But I mentioned before how Arkansas hasn't been an AP Top 25 team in a true road game since 2016. A&M hasn't done that since 2014. Yeah. Freshman Kyle Allen went into number 3 Auburn, won that game. Nick Marshall.
Yeah. What a time. I remember that.
Great season in the SEC. Very, very fun season it was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Notre Dame offense dominates a Mike Elko defense. Obviously, Elko's got that Notre Dame connection after he left the Irish for the A&M DC job when Jimbo was hired. So there's the personal connection there. But Marcus Freeman is 2-0 against Elko at 2 different programs. I think he wins against Elko for the third consecutive year. I'm going to go low scoring though. I'm going to say it's like a 27-17 Notre Dame win.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I guess I knew that Notre Dame Stadium was just called Notre Dame Stadium. I don't know why that's cracking me up so hard right now. Like they've
It's
had all
not
these.
officially in South Bend. It's officially in they say it's geographically in Notre Dame, which is weird.
Okay, like the municipality, like is there a mayor of Notre Dame?
I think it's like a Washington D.C. situation.
Okay, it's like Pete Buttigieg is the king of that. No, just kidding. So basically, they I'm interested by kind of like you talked about the defensive chess match here. I think that a quarterback like Marcel Reed. Okay, let me try to be fair here because I know again he tore up my team, but Blake Baker just didn't have it that day, man. And I think that a defensive coach like Marcus Freeman, who like you talked about the familiarity there. I think you would almost rather see, God, I can see myself being turned into a meme right now. I'm going to make this as disjointed as possible, so I can't do that. But no, like a coach like Marcus Freeman, who, like, I think you would rather see a quarterback like Marcel Reed than what they saw last year. I think that Marcel Reed, if you can take away his legs, we're not exactly still sure about him as a passer. And I think against a Notre Dame team that has been great on defense, that has been so fundamentally sound when they have 11 men on the field, right? And so I think that's the key here is if they can get 11 men on the field, they can really stop someone. But no, I think that this matchup was a little bit of a slugfest last year, and that was with Elko kind of taking over the roster, all the turnover, all that. But I still don't exactly see the ability to create like the explosive plays, the ability to spread the ball all over the field to make you defend the whole field. And that's more or less where I'm going here is that like especially at home. And I think that's going to make a big difference here. That's why A&M, like this game felt in my mind a little bit closer than maybe it was because of the home crowd, because of all that in Aggie land. But I think having to go on the road with this offense that can be a little bit limited, like I said, I like Notre Dame, maybe not big here, but these are just two teams that I feel like they're kind of foils of each other. It's exactly what I said last year, where it's like, yeah, like you guys want to basically protect the football, fall forward, get 4 and 5 yard chunk plays, and play defense. And one team had just made a college football playoff, essentially doing that, and made a championship game doing that. And the other team was, great in certain moments in the SEC. I still believe they had an amazing first year under Mike Elko, but I just don't see it here.
I would argue Marcus Freeman enjoyed seeing Connor Wigman week 1 last year with the things that he did to him and Al Golden. Now Al Golden is now with Cincinnati Bengals, so it's not necessarily the same defensive identity, and they've had some pretty key pieces to replace on the defensive side of the ball. This would be a really game for two things to happen if you're A&M. And this isn't going to be like some crazy take. This is like pretty straightforward. Cassius Howell doing the 3 sacks in a row play again would be really good.
Massive.
It seems like it would be really important if that guy showed up and did the things that he did last week, because that's a question for A&M is, are they going to be able to get those game records? This is a very decorated Notre Dame offensive line, and you need plays like that. You need negative plays to be able to just get CJ Carr off schedule, because that was a guy who looked like he was growing with his confidence by the end of that Miami game. And if you could do some of those things, that obviously is going to give you a much better chance of staying in this game. But yeah, you also need, and again, this is not particularly bold, Casey Concepcion to be the difference maker. He's looked as advertised so far. He has looked like the guy who was a freshman All-American at NC State a couple of years ago. And I think that connection is developing, and they're really trying to, they've been really trying to establish these first couple weeks with favorable matchups. And I think that's been kind of a trend throughout college football is teams that have these matchups first couple weeks, like you're seeing passing numbers that are a lot higher than expected because you've got new receivers that are coming in, get these opportunities to be able to get on the same page with them. A&M has been doing that. They really have been doing that. And I do think he's capable of being a game changer in the passing game in a way that A&M did not have last year. So that's the good news. But do I think this is going to be a difficult game for Marcel Reed to navigate scoring drives and string those together in the way that I think you have to win a Big Ten game like this? Yes. I don't think that he is able to fully have that look at me, I can throw the football type of game in the way that A&M's Twitter like to be able to point out in the preseason. I think that the passing game strides will be there this year, but I think this is too tough of a matchup to rely on that A&M passing game to be balanced in the way that it needs to be.
Yeah, and you heard like that preview by me was just like so, like I said, disjointed because I'm like looking at Notre Dame and I'm just trying to figure out exactly what they are. And like it's like I feel this visceral reaction trying to give them credit because at times they have been so like you talked about like the weird loss they had last year to like Northern Illinois. And I it's so weird to get a pulse on Marcus Freeman as a head coach, right? Because they have that's like they also lost to Marshall. You know what I'm saying? Like, but in these bigger games, that's what's been so weird. It's like almost the opposite of the Brian Kelly experience, where Brian Kelly kind of beat the teams they were supposed to beat, and with the scheduling at the time in the BCS, that was like everybody. And Marcus Freeman, it's like they can get caught like. Sleeping against like smaller competition, but in these bigger games like this, you honestly start to trust them, I guess. So yeah, this is just like
Here's Will,
good.
to that point, he has 2 losses to group of 5 teams, both of which were at home. He's 4-1 against AP top 25 teams at home. So
Yeah.
he's got more losses to group of 5 teams at home than he does AP top 25 teams. That's why it's weird. And that's why it's tough to figure out because they've gotten up for these big time games. But you're right. I mean, they've had lows that have been tremendously low. Now, when they're coming off a national runner up season, I don't think it's really as fair to say, oh, that's what we should expect to see from them. But you're right. And you do kind of just never really know. And maybe this is one of those days.
Yeah, I again super fast. I know I like say, oh, great game. Like this is a super fascinating game to me, because like I just feel like with Marcus Freeman, man, maybe I'm a hater, and I think that's also I'm trying to sort through is like I've just felt like we're like a move or two away from like kind of pulling the plug and like all the water leaking out of this thing and being like, oh, actually Notre Dame is we've unmasked you. You're the same old Notre Dame. But I'm kind of starting to. I mean, they beat Georgia last year, but again, kind of a fluky game. Like I just. I think they
They
need to.
beat them fair and square.
They no,
I
they
just said
did, they
that.
did, they
Yeah.
did. I know, but not worth. I feel Georgia fans now yelling at me. I couldn't be doing this preview worse. But anyway, point being, I think that I just think Marcus Freeman's a better coach. I think that's where I have in the back of my mind. I'm scared to say it out loud because I really do like Elko and I like a lot of the things they did last year. But especially this early in the season, especially with a loss already on the books for Notre Dame, like you said, like their season is like I'm not gonna say over because Notre Dame and like they do get a lot of love, but it would just be such a weird situation for Marcus Freeman because we've seen him do like his little freaky trait, like we talked about, is that he loses the bad, horrible game and then he bounces back. When you start off 0-2, you can't like your season's effectively dead. And if you make one more mistake, everyone's laughing at you. And to think about how low they were last year after that loss and the fact that they finished the way that they did, I mean, yeah, you gotta like Notre Dame here in that they always get up for the big moments and when they have to.
If Notre Dame loses this game, which again I'm on record saying I don't think that'll happen, I think they win and cover. If they lose this game, it'll be a 3-game losing streak for Marcus Freeman.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But again, don't think that'll happen.